Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today as we kick off day 3 of the PanAm Aquatics convention. It's been so incredible to be together with all of you and share this incredible moment for learning and growth. So thank you so much for your enthusiasm, for your knowledge and idea sharing. And I'm sure this is going to be a wonderful last day of the convention. So with that, this session will be in English, so if you wish to listen to it in Spanish, please click the interpretation button at the bottom of your screen. Esta sesión es en inglés. Para escucharla en español, por favor oprima el botón de interpretación en la parte inferior de su pantalla. Okay, so with that, we're ready to get started. We have an amazing panel prepared for you today. It's titled Aquatic Event Planning and Project Management, and it will include everything you need to know from the experts. So, be sure to check out what they have to say and follow their advice for incredible events. We already saw yesterday from USA Swimming what is possible. So now here's your how-to on how to achieve that safely and effectively. So I am absolutely honored to welcome our first speaker for today, Tammi, who is an international sports lawyer and consultant in Scotland, licensed in both law and sports medicine. Her expertise includes medical negligence, concussion management, and corporate governance. A sought-after lecturer, she addresses athlete safety, gender equality, and human rights in sports. Tammi is a specialist member for the National Anti-Doping Panel and chairs the board of directors for a USA nonprofit. So without further ado, it is my absolute honor to welcome Tammi, and the screen is all yours.
Thank you so much to not only Valerie, but the entire team for allowing me to come and speak to you today. As she mentioned, I'm a lawyer and in medicine, and I'm not going to lecture you in lawyerly related speak for any of this. There are hours and hours and hours of work that have been put into the legal side of how event management is best done and things to keep in mind. But what I want to do today is to take it from sort of a painting of the picture type idea. One of the biggest mistakes that I think happen in a risk management standpoint, or when things are being done with risk management in mind, is people think of it in silos. So there's your volunteers, and then there's the medical, and there's insurance, and there's administration. You get all of these things together, and that's great. But risk management should never be done on paper or in the theoretical, if that makes sense. So you don't want to necessarily, tick boxes and say, well, as long as I have this insurance policy and I have someone filling this role, and we have, someone showing up at this time, all of these different tick the box exercises, that's good and that's necessary. But I would suggest that people who have a successful and healthy relationship with risk management and the safety of the events that they put on, think about it in sort of at a larger level where all of these things are intertwined and connected. So when I'm speaking in situations like this, a lot of times I draw the distinction between what I refer to as risk mitigation versus risk management, because I don't know how it translates, but there's a US colloquial, there's an American or English colloquialism that says an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. That is never truer than in a situation where risk management is involved. Because if you can deal with some of these things on the front end, and then potentially you stop or mitigate something happening that you then have to clean up after it's happened. And I really like speaking to sports specific professionals, because I think one of the other things that happens is there's this idea that somehow business people can run events. And that's true and important. I'm not negating that. But there are situations where the people who work in swimming are the best people to detect what might be an issue or what a swimming or aquatics specific event would need. Because risk management principles, there are some that carry over in all sports. And so you have your American football, you have football, you have basketball, baseball, all of these different things. Gymnastics is going to be one way or the other. But swimming is very specific in that one of the biggest things is you have a giant pool of water in the middle of a venue. I worked in sports medicine for American football. There was never a giant pool of water preventing me from running from one side of the field to the other if I needed to get someone or collect them. If someone was injured and an ambulance needed to drive on, there was never a giant pool of water preventing that ambulance from taking a direct route to the person that was hurt. So when you talk about things like emergency action protocols and things of that nature, it's vital that people who have experience with the sport are the ones that are at the table and are influencing the decision makers. And sometimes that you may get pushback from that, but it is incredibly important to do that. And it's not just with swimming and aquatics. If you work in outdoor snow sports, marathons or cross country versus a athletics event that happens inside a fixed track. If you are working in biathlon, you have to deal with things like guns in this snow sport. So, it's very, 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 it's redundant to say it's very important, but it's vital that you all are there at the table and thinking about how these events happen in the context of what happens in a swimming event. One of my favorite things to see, one of my favorite videos was the time lapse that they did of setting up the swimming pool at the NFL stadium in Indianapolis this summer. That was just fascinating because you just watch them literally construct an aquatic venue out of a place where fourth downs and touchdowns are usually what happen. And so it was fascinating to watch that happen. But it's not lost on me that two of the people that were behind that idea are former swimmers. Because if you can just imagine a bunch of business guys drunk going, hey, you know what would be fun? That's a very bad idea. And specifically in this NFL stadium, there are emergency action protocols and emergency access routes and plans and things that have been flushed out over years and decades of what are appropriate risk management and risk mitigation strategies. But none of those protocols adjusted for a giant swimming pool in the middle of the venue. And so the people that planned that out had to build on the risk management system and the emergency action system that was already there. So there are two things that I generally say, and people that work with me get tired of hearing me say them sometimes. One of them is make sure the right people are at the table. So I've already said that. You need to have medical people speaking on the medical risks. You need to have a safeguarding person speaking about the safeguarding risks. Swimming will, aquatics in general will definitely have an element of safeguarding to it where you're dealing with children or vulnerable adults. And so your safeguarding person should not be the afterthought of what you're doing. The medical person should not be the afterthought of what you're doing. And so making sure the right people are at the table during the planning, not just after you've done all the planning and you're informing them of what's going to happen, but the actual planning, they need to be at the table and they need to be part of the decision-making team. The other thing that I say, and it is a simple statement that applies to almost every aspect, every silo that I talked about with respect to how risk management works, and that is walk the venue. You walk the venue with the people who understand how things are supposed to work. You walk the venue with people who are on the lookout for things aquatic specific, like we're going to need to plug a bunch of things in. Is there a place that can run everything we need with proximity to a giant body of water? And is that safe? So you walk through it. Is the medical access going to be somewhere where you can get people in and out, not just your competitors, but also spectators. Where are your where are the automatic defibrillators, the AEDs that hang on the wall? Where are those things? And are they in appropriate places for your specific event? There Sports is always it brings such a unique aspect to it because everything is kind of different. There are, even within swimming, I mentioned all of the other different sports, but your management of an open water event versus something that happens inside is going to be different. Your chance of bloodborne pathogens and people bleeding in water polo is going to be different than that of the 200 fly. Even in diving, you have platform and springboard. Those are two different things. And so if you are analyzing this and looking at it, you need to be able to speak on and protect your group and your position, your sport, your event to do that. And sometimes, depending on where you are calling in from, some of you have specific venues. There are swimming specific venues that you always use. Some of you may be going to a smaller town, for instance, that has a swimming, and you are going to have an aquatics event at this venue that's never held something the size of what you're putting on. You can't just assume that that place has the kind of emergency action protocols and the kind of forethought in place to support what it is you're doing and what it is in your event. So these are the kind of things when you walk the event and you figure out what it looks like when you're imagining this. Again, it's seeing the forest for the trees, and you see the imaginary platform and what it's going to look like, or where your people are going to be. Can your athletes get from the dressing rooms to the competition floor without going through the crowd? Can the officials do it? If you have an international event and there's going to be a head of state there, do you have an emergency action plan for evacuating VIPs? Because their security will, but you need to be able to have that building forward. So what I would say is that, I could and have gone on for years about this because I teach a whole class in it. But what I would take away from this is the idea that you not look at risk management in a segment of silos and, with different directors that don't necessarily work with the other directors to see what's going on. And a masterfully planned and executed event that is very smooth gets everybody at the table beforehand and does real time walkthroughs of what is going to look like on the day of the event. And I use one example that is not going to say it happened, but I'm not going to not say it happened. You may see these tunnels that go into concourses where it could be a swimming or athletic specific event. But there are these tunnels that trucks or ambulances, or you can load large equipment through, and that's how you get it to the competition floor. Let's say that tunnel is 9 feet, has a 9-foot or 3-meter clearance, and your average ambulance has 8.5 feet. Great. You're thinking you're solid. You have 6 inches to play with. This is great. Except now you need to run cords, and the cords need to run through the tunnel because the safe plug-in is back on the backside of the tunnel. Now you're thinking, I'm going to be good. I need to put 3-inch closed cell padding over the top of it and tape it down so nobody trips. But now what you've done is you have taken away the clearance of that ambulance. And I have seen scenarios where an ambulance is all of a sudden not have as much room as they thought it did. And that's the kind of thing that actually walking the event and seeing what's going on and seeing what it looks like in real time and with you standing there is really integral to being able to plan and mitigate some of the risk moving forward. So I'm going to dump that off. I think I made my 15 minutes. And I've got plenty more. And if there are questions, I'm happy to answer it. But I'm looking forward to hearing from Alvaro.
Wonderful, Tammy. Thank you so much. This is such a fresh perspective as to the approach we have to take for risk management for events. So thank you so much for sharing, and we'll get to the discussion later on from questions from the audience. Next, I would like to introduce our next guest speaker from World Aquatics, who will give us that perspective of putting together world-leading events in aquatics. Gabor Karpati is a seasoned sport and event manager at World Aquatics since 2018, focusing on enhancing the global impact of aquatic sports. Previously, he was head of marketing for the 17th FINA World Championships, where he excelled in event management and marketing. Gabor also served as the national coach for the Austrian Swimming Federation, coaching A teams and youth athletes, and was the managing director of the national men's and youth water polo teams. So we are absolutely honored to have you here with us today, and the screen is all yours.
Thank you very much. Just a very quick feedback if you can see my screen.
Yes, I can see it. If you can put in presenter mode, that'd be perfect.
Yeah, super. I don't know if I can, but I'm just let me go through and explain some things. Thank you very much for the opportunity from PanAm Aquatics, especially to Maureen, and I was listening this convention, and very, very nice and very useful content for everybody, I'm sure. And it was also a real pleasure to hear Tammi and see Tammi and digest her very useful content. And very honestly, it's we have never met, but I would just verify in some aspects that how truly she's right with all these things. But first, this is the title what I get from PanAm Aquatics, and it's a bit of a huge topic to talk about large scale events. But I try to do, and before I say anything, I really love this photo because I think this shows a lot. Maybe this face is also very familiar to you guys. But very important to say that currently to organize or to host any type of events, not a large scale event, a small event also, it's just not enough. It's not enough because the most important thing is to satisfy, like, let's say, everybody, all the stakeholders around one event. Once more, small events and until the Olympic Games. Also, this photo, for me at least, shows everything about a sport event. Of course, first of all, athletes need to be happy. But without the athletes being happy, nobody will be, none of the spectators or none of the stakeholders will be happy, because everybody will feel the, let's say that the athletes are tensed or not satisfying, they are not performing their best. And of course, and here I would like to contact to Tammi and how to make the athletes happy, because they are super grateful, and also you can see in this picture. Tammi said that businessmen may not be able to organize sport events. Well, I would be more critical, and I would say that they are not able to do that because their profile is completely different. Also, I would emphasize more that each sport is very, very specific. Here you need to have a very deep knowledge of the sports. You need to have a very big knowledge of the athletes, the sport venue. And of course, the people who take part in the event, officials, organizing committee, international federation, national federations, everybody needs to have the experience in order to improve the event. So then you can see such faces like you see on the screen, and then you can see you can reach, let's say, another level of event with unity. Everybody can be successful, not only the athletes, but volunteers, organizing committee, sponsors. Then you can see fun and engagement from all stakeholders. You can build some legacy. I'm going to speak about this in the society. And of course, what also you can see in this picture, you can see somehow the future and no stop and something, a process which moves forward. So once again, I got this very difficult title for the presentation, but I would like to build down a bit what is very important, very key for a, let's say, a successful event. Of course, development, not only the event, but also the sport, different actions, the flows, the organization, making impact. I will speak about this a bit later, but it's very important that you make impact and you make difference. And very important also to understand that one event is not only one specific sporting event, a match, a run, whatever. It's, or a swim, a race. It's a sequence of different events, and it's very important to understand that, at least how I think, that one single event will be, in my opinion, never so successful. So my name is Gabor Karpati, as I was introduced. I'm working for World Aquatics. Lots of events behind me. Let's say lots of experience. So just let me show you some things which I think about events. I put some bubbles here, which are the key challenges nowadays for an event. Not only in PanAm Aquatics, but all around the world, literally in city level, country level, continental level, worldwide, internationally. Even the Olympic Games are just so many that, very honestly, many times the athletes even don't know where they are. So if you would like to host or organize an event, you really need to focus on different things which makes your event successful. And for me, the most important bubble on the screen is on the top left corner, is the legacy. But also, I'll let you read all of them, and I will go into the details with some of them. But once again, you can be successful with only fulfilling one bubble, one topic, but there are very strong connections in between, and I guess even as the event is bigger and bigger, or larger, you have to contribute on each areas, and you have to develop your event at each sections. Of course, it's depending on the market, but for me, as Tammi said, the planning of the event is the key factor to have a long-lasting legacy. Because it's always very difficult to measure somehow what is a successful event. We don't have numbers for this, so that's why I would say that a group of people should measure the event, but not only with the numbers, with the budgets, the income, but also what kind of legacy it left in the society, in the community, or even within just the sport. I truly believe that in this fast-paced world of event production, delivering a flawless event is not an enough feature. It's not a goal, just a simple basics. And these are the questions, I think, at the planning phase, which each organizing committee or head of organizing committee or a government should think about. I know that time. Yes.
Oh, sorry. I think we can't see your screen. We still see the first. I know you're referencing.
Really?
Yes, I know you're referencing material, so just want to make sure.
Okay. I don't know why. So I'm trying to get out. Can you see now?
No, can't see the slides and can't see you.
Okay. Then I'm very sorry about this. Just I'm trying to.
No worries.
Maybe now.
Yes, now we can see. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm not gonna go into the presentation function just like this, so it's easier to follow the slides. So this is the bubbles. I mean, without this was a bit not really understandable the whole topic what I said, but these are the bubbles and these are the key challenges what I do think that everybody should consider to have a successful event. I just mentioned that for me the legacy is the most important, but all of these topics are connected somehow, and could be a big measure or a good measure of if an event is successful or not, because it's as Tammi said, the most important is or one of the most important part of a successful event is planning by expertise, and prepare for everything to make all stakeholders happy. I put here some questions which everybody should consider, but one thing is for me very important. Many of you trying to host an event, just a single event, and I do think that without a concept, having a sequence of events to really leave legacy in your sport, in your country, or in your club, or within your athletes is not enough. The reason is why is not enough because you have to improve during the event. You have to find a way of involvement of the entire community who surround the events, who attend the events. That's why it's very important. What I wanted to say that the legacy is one of the measure of these events. Of course, you can have short-term or long-term legacy, but you have to always think about and plan in advance what legacy you can leave in the sport. It's not only your event, it's only also what you can leave for the future of the event. One or two development, technological development, presentation development. It also give legacy for the next event, even though if it's not organized by you. In the organization, it can give a legacy because people will learn more when you have the next event. Your organization or your organizing committee will be able to contribute much more to the event, can develop the event, can improve the services. So it's very important to gather the experience for your organization. And yes, the people in your organization can move forward, can get a better job, can go to bigger scale events. So it's also a kind of legacy which you can create with a good strategy. Within the community, of course, more spectators will come for your local events. Into the society, it creates maybe job opportunities. I'm talking more about now here larger scale events, but also for the industry, it can create one or two improvements on your event. It can create maybe a different product on the market. Maybe it can bring the prices higher when it became a need for other organizers. And at the end, a well-prepared event should also leave legacy in the economy. Easy, for example, leaving legacy in the economy, all the people and their families get a revenue, get an income during the event, which goes back to the economy, which goes back to the family. So it's also something very important what you need to consider as legacy. One of the tools which can create a legacy, and really nobody not many organizing committees think about the communication. I put the last sentence that words to spend. Yes, I think it's very important to plan a budget for communication. because this can make the seeds, the root in the society, to explain them what kind of event your community can prepare for the event. And well in advance, you plan the, let's say, the media buying or the editorials, or the channels, the media channels, where you would like to communicate your event. And it's not only communication, but it's also education. I know it in the books doesn't exist, this 3 pillars rule. It's mainly mine concern, and based on my experience. 3 pillars rules in event communication. What does it mean? In time and in topics, 3 pillars I think an organizing committee should build up. In time, the first pillar is starting the communication about the event well in advance. And as you get closer to the event, maybe the frequency of communication, maybe the number of content what you create is just getting more and more. The 3 pillar rule applies also in the topics. You create at the very beginning just a very generic communication or communication goals or content. For example, let's say Aruba. I've never been in Aruba, but first I would speak about how is Aruba, where is Aruba, to let the people know more about the country. And then in the next pillar, on the next step, next phase, talk about the sport, what the event will host, talk about the venue, where the event will take place. And in the last phase, in the third pillar, talk about the athletes, the results, when you are very close to the event, to people to get to know about your event, so they are ready to move on. I'm not going to be long. It's also influences many things so how you prepare for the event. It also raises the commercial viability of your event, of your product. And the reason why I'm saying that you have to have continuous event in a row, you have to plan this, that in 5 years, 10 years, which events, how many events, what type of events you would like to organize, because then with an experienced organizing committee, with a ready community, you can develop the sport product itself, the event itself. You can provide much more rights, much more placements for sponsors or potential companies who are interested to invest. But also you have to work on your visibility and develop the visibility through different events. You need to learn what you need to broadcast, what kind of company, what kind of technology. Educating the spectators also brings visibility to your event or events. Social media, whatever, the athletes are much more engaged to an event, to a country, if there is a sequence of event. And very last, which really can leave legacy especially for a large scale event, is the involvement of the community. It should be not necessarily paid people, but for me, where we are still not on the top and where we can develop a lot, women and involvement of women in talents. Even in your continent, I'm not mentioning Maureen, but I can mention we just have an event in Argentina with Monica Brochero, who did a super good job, and I do believe that women has different value than men. They are differently engaged to an event. Their engagement brings, I'm sorry to say for the male audience, but they bring a different society. They bring a different engagement to the society. They have different skills and approaches. In my opinion, in many cases, they are better and faster. They have better and faster problem-solving skills. And the example of Monica also, that sometimes women are more resistant at the events. They can even contribute more to the event. But I'm not talking about the women because it sounds very feminine. I'm also talking about the young talents. We have to give them opportunity to get into an event. Currently, even in I think Paris Olympic Games is a very good example, but Tokyo before was a very bad example, that the organizing committees, they don't give chance to the young talents. The younger generation can bring a lot of opportunities to your event, a lot of possibility to improve all those things which I mentioned. And with their extra content, with their extra skills, your legacy is also bigger. You don't need to wait for applications. You can go to the local community, you can go to the local schools, give them tasks to talk about a swimming event, make drawings, let them plan the medals, let them create trophies. So make them actively participate in the event. There are much more opportunities just to bring the schools or the classes to the different events just to fill the stands. If you involve them, you will see that the doors are opening for your events. And the last thing which I want to say, and also it connects also a bit to the planning and the strategy, that you need to have an identity. It's not enough to have a purpose or goals. I don't know what is a purpose, something I don't know what I wrote, but the most important is that the identity, and it's not only the branding, it's more about the vision, your clear goals, what you want to reach with an event. You have to have a real reason to host an event. Maybe there are more, after some minutes, maybe you can understand that there are much more reasons than to gain money through the event, because Aquatics event, I'm telling you that none of them will bring you a number on your bank account. But there are much more which in the long term can bring money back to your organization or to your community. And it's very important to build up a reputation, because identity is just, there is no identity without any reputation. Whatever, it goes together. What I really want to say that you need to have a kind of vision and build up your own identity for the event. I finished. I know I'm over of the 10 minutes, so I'm very sorry about this, but maybe you could get some insights.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. This was incredibly insightful. I'm sure will be really useful for our community. So thank you so much for your time. Now I would like to welcome Alvaro El Pozo Jacobs, who is the COO at PanAm Aquatics, focusing on large-scale events and athlete governance. He previously managed aquatics for the Santiago 2023 and Lima 2019 events and coordinated high-performance centers at the Peruvian Sports Institute. Alvaro, an economics graduate from the Universidad de Lima, also has experience as an investment analyst. He is dedicated to social development in sports, prioritizing transparency and teamwork. So thank you so much, Alvaro. The screen is all yours.
Thank you, Valerie, and thanks, of course, Maureen, for the opportunity being here, and not to exclude, for sure, to mention Tammi and Gabor for sharing the panel. So I want to go through the complete process. As you can see, it is more theoretical, but let's go fast because the clock is ticking. So first, introduction to event planning. We already heard about this. I just want to make something very important, to mention something very important here. We've heard in the last 2 days very important topics like sports safety, the role of the women in the sports, and all of this applies here. So this is only how we can manage events, but we always include all the good governance and criteria that we should do it in as any other project. So specifically for event planning, this involves organizing, coordinating, and managing the various elements of an event to ensure its smooth execution. So this is the final goal, because you will define which is or what is a smooth execution. The critical role on event planning lies in its ability to anticipate and mitigate potential challenges. So we heard at the beginning of today, Tammi was mentioned about risk management, and that's true. At the end, you try to to plan all the unforeseen or everything that you can't see for the execution, but at the end, you shouldn't expect the unexpected. So planning means resources. Resources including budget, personal, and materials. So major and most of the limitations are about resources. Look for the money, involve more people, and have your milestones ready and think about the details. This will be the summary of what you need to do so you can expand your limitations. As more people you can bring into the organization, and again, taking the other recommendations, we need people prepared, people who know. We need women in positions. We need governance criteria incorporated in the event. So you will have more space and capacity to have a better event if you expand your limitations. And usually these limitations come through resources, which are budget and personal. Now, as I don't know if are you seeing my screen?
The first slide.
Okay, one sec. Yes. Okay. Now we're good, correct?
First slide still. There we go, execution stages.
Okay, so we were talking about planning. Now we're moving to the execution stages because from planning, we're doing all the previous work. As we mentioned, we are considering all the major variables and we're trying to see all the details that we can include in the budget. But then comes the execution stages. So the first stage will be preparing the venue, the most important one. We need to have the venue with all the modifications and installations according to each discipline. And we need to move all the things, I mean, the furniture, the materials, everything at some point. So we have two clearly stages here that are fit out and pump in. This is very common in the sports industry during execution stages. Of course, it is very important, the logistics coordinations. You have to provide the correct services. Just always thinking about your clients, so always take care about your clients. The public relations and marketing. The most important approach here is involving your community. At the end, they will be after the event. And of course, the technical setup and the rehearsals. And the critical key here is shared information. So we need to share all the planning. Even during the execution stages, we always need to share the information. We need to get this information through all the stakeholders. This includes also the volunteers. So in the second stage, we have the operations. Basically, we are starting now the operation. We have the check-in and the security. We need to coordinate entry points, management, the accreditation, have the security protocols. Then we have the stakeholders coordination. Now we have all of them on board in the event. So we need to ensure that all team officials, athlete volunteers are informed and in place. This is why that said, we are continue sharing the information. As more as you share, as better the event will go. Then we have the event flow management, overseeing for the flows, the activities, the warm-up, start-up, the start of the competition. So you need to do that walk that Tammi was mentioning earlier. The issue resolutions, this is very important because even you plan in detail, you can still have unforeseen issues. For example, in one event, we needed to buy 1 ton of ice for one night. So we will reduce the water temperature of one pool. Then we have, of course, the spectator experience. They need to be considered in all the planning. They need to have an enjoyable experience. And this, again, has to be with the community. And of course, the media and the communication, which means provide real and time updates for public relations. Then the next stage, the third one, is, and that's why it's beyond the podium, is as soon as we end the last medal ceremony, we actually are starting the first of the last activities for closing the event. which, as we can see, actually Paris 2024 is giving out all the furniture, is selling the volunteers uniforms. They're now reorienting the use of the apartments that were used as the Atlas Village. So that's part of the event too, the closing. So we have to disassembly first the venue, which has also two important steps, the bump out, which means taking everything out of the venues, and the reinstallments, because in some cases we need to get the venue or get back the venue in the same conditions as we receive it. Important thing here, the feedback is always important to get the opinions of how are we doing it and how can we go better. The performance review of all the execution stages during the event, the financial wrap up, we need to do the budget reconciliation and the sponsor reporting, and for sure the post-event communications. So we need to share highlights with media, sponsors, volunteers, all stakeholders. Now, why Beyond? Because we have a lot of stakeholders during an event. So I'll go very quickly through this. First, the athletes and the team officials, they are the primary participants. Their needs and safety are our top priority. The technical officials, because they will grant the conditions to enforce rules and ensure the fair play. That's what we want as event manager. The organizing committee, they are the backbone of planning and executing the event. They will be the critical partner on relying with what we can do for giving the athletes the best level of services and all the stakeholders. The volunteers, there are many positions we need their helps, and we need to thank them very often because they are the key of the execution of any event, even from guiding to supporting operations. Then we have providers and suppliers. They are also important because they are giving what you are needing to have the event. So it's another important group for the logistics. The spectators, as we mentioned, this is not only for the community, it's also the foreign spectators that are coming to your country, to your city to watch or participate in the event, and the sponsors. Their support is crucial on financial backing and promotion. So going very quickly, as I mentioned, this will be the complete presentation, very short as I could, just 4 key bullets: work on the detailed budget, and assure resources, money and personnel, teamwork, and expand your limitations. Second, from people to people. You are doing it with a team, you are coordinating with people, and you are giving this for people. So all stakeholders are important during the execution and planning of any event. Involve your community. They will continue after your event. So they are very important when you are organizing any event in any city. And finally, and for me, one of the most important, shared information. No one can do it by itself. As more people as you can assure they have the information, all these ideas and perspective, even they can bring new ideas, are the best assets you can harvest. So that will be my presentation.
Thank you so much, Alvaro. Really appreciate it. Thank you to Tammi, Gabor, and Tammi. Alvaro, thank you so much. This was absolutely incredible, and I think this paves the path for how we think about event planning in the future. So keep an eye out for the amazing events happening across the Americas. Thank you all for your knowledge and for sharing your experiences. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you in the next session, Underwater Chats Coaches Edition, happening right after this. Thank you. Take care.
Muchas gracias.